What would you call a joy that knows no bounds? That is as solemn as it is sweet, with an outpouring of soul that connects us. Joy in resilience, joy in creativity, joy in happiness, joy in strength. What would you call a joy that knows no bounds? A joy supreme. AARP celebrates Black joy. Visit us at aarp.org/Black.
Good evening. I am Karen Carter Richards, publisher of the Forward Times newspaper in Houston, Texas, and chair of the National Newspaper Publishers Association. It is a pleasure to welcome you to our virtual NNPA 2021 National Leadership Awards reception. We have an exciting and well-deserved list of awardees tonight to receive our national salute and tribute for their outstanding leadership and contributions that have helped to improve the quality of life for Black Americans, for all people in the United States and throughout the world. As we note with pride, this year marks the 194th anniversary of the Black Press of America. Through the NNPA, we continue to plead our own cause as the trusted voice of the communities in which we serve across the nation. Next, we will hear greetings from Terry Jones, publisher of the New Orleans Data News Weekly and chair of the NNPA Convention and Events Planning Committee.
Hi, I'm Terry Jones, publisher of New Orleans Data News Weekly and chairman of the Convention and Events Planning Committee for NNPA. I'd like to welcome you this evening to our virtual NNPA 2021 National Leadership Awards reception. Our theme for this evening, Excellence in Innovative Leadership in Black America. We'd like to thank our sponsors and our partners for their support this evening, and most of all, we'd like to thank you for joining us, the thousands of people throughout online and other social medias, for helping us celebrate our 194th year of the Black Press of America. Hope you enjoy yourself. Have a great evening.
Good evening. I join with our chair, Karen Carter Richards of the NNPA, and Terry Jones, the NNPA chair of the Convention and Planning Committee, and welcome you to tonight's special program. This is our virtual NNPA 2021 National Leadership Awards reception. Tonight's program is made possible because of the generous support of our corporate partners and our corporate sponsors. First, our partners, General Motors, Pfizer, Reynolds American, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Our sponsors are Wells Fargo, AARP, Comcast Universal, the Google News Initiative, and the American Petroleum Institute, API. Thank you for your support of the National Newspaper Publishers Association.
Our first awardee is the president of Meharry Medical College in Nashville, Tennessee, Dr. James Hildreth. He is one of the leading authorities on infectious disease in America and serves on the FDA panel that approves the vaccines for the COVID-19 virus.
I guess it's a combination of how I was raised and my faith as a Christian that motivates me to do what I do. Wherever we live on this planet, we're all connected in one way or another. And all of us should aspire that when any one of us is challenged in some way, all of us are. And I think that the pandemic and global climate change all reinforce that idea. We're all connected. We're all patches of the same quilt. And when things happen to any of us, they affect all of us. And once we as a species come to grips with that notion, I think the world will be a much, much better place. So I think that all of us should be aware that all of us have rights that need to be protected.
Do it. As one of the foremost experts on this, Dr. Hildreth, you are actually on the FDA board that approved the vaccine.
Right.
Can you talk about the importance of the vaccine and respond to people who say they just don't trust it?
I mean, first I acknowledge that ordinary people who are not into medicine or science might have legitimate questions about the vaccine. We have to accept that, and that's reasonable. But I think when all the questions have been answered, and you think about the risk of getting COVID-19, getting really sick and dying, which is a real risk. I mean, this is a pandemic virus, which means that it makes people very ill and kills people if it has the chance to. And one of my main concerns is that we as a people, as African Americans, we have such a higher burden of heart disease, hypertension, asthma, obesity, that makes us at greater risk than white people are, because they have much lower incidence of those things. So we, as a people, need to be especially vigilant about this, about COVID-19, given that we have this high burden of disease and death. But I've been studying viruses for 40 years, starting as a sophomore in college. I've done research on viruses for, 30 plus years. And, I've also studied the immune system. That's where my specialty is knowing the immune system and how it works. And I can tell people that none of the steps required to evaluate the safety of the vaccines were omitted. They were developed quickly, that is true, and that could raise some concerns, but even that can be answered. And if I may, let me just say three things that should give you comfort as to why the vaccines could be produced in less than a year. The first is technology. We have technologies available to us that have not been available up to this time, and they accelerated the process of discovery very dramatically. The second thing is, vaccine development is normally an iterative process. What I mean by that is you do one step, you follow that by another step, and you follow that by another step. The resources were made available to the drug companies to do these steps in parallel. So now, instead of having a 6-month process followed by another 6-month process, those were run in parallel. You have to make some assumptions about what the outcomes are going to be, but parallel processes compress the time frame. And the last thing is, which I know a lot about, is we've been trying to make an HIV vaccine for 37 years. We don't have an HIV vaccine, but what we do have is an incredible infrastructure for vaccine development that in February of 2020, the HIV work was put on hold, and the HIV vaccine network became the COVID-19 vaccine network. What that means is that scientists, facilities, protocols, technologies that were focused on HIV for the last 3 decades, all of that was brought to bear in COVID-19. So technology, parallel processes, and an existing infrastructure allowed us to create vaccines in a record time. So even though it seems incredible, almost miraculous to have vaccines developed so quickly, it's not a miracle. There's nothing magical about it. It's just a lot of hard work over decades that let us do this.
The National Newspaper Publishers Association, representing the Black Press of America, proudly presents the 2021 National Leadership Award to Dr. James E.K. Hildreth, medical doctor and president and CEO of the Meharry Medical College, for outstanding and courageous leadership, scientific genius, effective healthcare advocacy, and a passionate activism for the cause of public health, freedom, justice, equity, and empowerment of communities of color, and for all people with the highest degree of excellence and social transformation across the United States and throughout the world. September the 16th, 2021, Washington, D.C.
Hello, I'm Dr. James Hildreth, President and CEO of Meharry Medical College in Nashville. I would like to thank you for this honor from the NNPA. The burden from the COVID-19 pandemic has weighed heavily and disproportionately on the Black community. We would rather stand against adversaries we can see, but it has taken one that is unseen to shake us and challenge the faith of many in medicine and science. The truth is that the way out of this pandemic is through science. It's through the work of those who spend countless hours in laboratories dealing with life at the microscopic level to find solutions. It's through the tireless work of people conducting COVID tests at outdoor sites during grueling weather. is through the many clinics and community outreaches to provide vaccinations to all who want one. Keeping the truth in front of the public is what the American press has always been charged with. Journalists across history would say that they've always countered misinformation coming from the highest levels. But few times in recent knowledge has the Fourth Estate been more important as clarifiers of knowledge than during this pandemic. From whatever the source, many of the casualties of misinformation have been ravaged by this disease and paid with their lives. The truth needs a conduit to every household, especially in the Black community, particularly regarding health and confidence in the COVID vaccines. The trusted voice of the Black press has been indispensable in persuading the hesitant and proclaiming the facts. The Black press has been the watchman on the wall, guarding that truth and keeping the community informed, saving lives. I personally want to thank you for that. And I want to again thank the NNPA for this honor you bestowed upon me.
All electric. We're driving it everywhere. We are Generation E. Ultium. It's a battery that charges fast. It has more energy than me. We want smart, clean, and safe. And powerful.
Our third awardee tonight is the young, dynamic physician and one of the first doctors to join NNPA's COVID-19 task force. She frequently appears on national television addressing the health disparities and issues of racial and social justice for communities of color during the prolonged, deadly pandemic. She also is a strong advocate for the Black press of America.
I was born in a place called Little Africa, South Carolina. My quest to become a doctor actually started when I was 8 years old. My little sister asked my mom if she could have a little brother. And my mom told us at that point her first child was actually a little boy. He was born at 6 months old. And so he lived for 3 days and passed away. That was the first time I ever remember my mom crying. And I decided at that point that I wanted to become a physician so I could make sure that people didn't have to cry anymore.
Black community. CDC figures show us, of course, minorities make up a majority of coronavirus cases in many communities. I'm going to turn now to Dr. Ebony Hilton. She's an associate professor of anesthesiology at the University of Virginia. Doctor, on the one hand, people would say these are separate crises. You have the coronavirus pandemic, you have the racial reckoning and protest movement going on in America, but you say for Black Americans they are connected. Explain.
All right. For sure. Thank you for having me. Well, when you look at the population of people that are dying at higher rates for COVID-19, and we look at those who are dying at higher rates for police brutality, we see they share one common thread, and that is African Americans and racial minority groups tend to be those that fall at the hands of these two swords. And the reason being is that they share the same disease process, which is systemic racism, and how that plays into everything that we see unfolding today.
You know, and we can talk about the phases of clinical trials, of which the primary focus of clinical trials are to prove safety. But I think the bigger picture is to look at the context. How do we compare this vaccine to everyday life medications that we take daily? Women, right? When we're saying with this COVID vaccine that 6 women developed blood clots, that was 6 out of 6.8 million doses. So that's 1 in every million. When we're looking at birth control pills, for instance, that many women take daily, what we know is that for every million women who take birth control pills, between 500 and 1,000 of those women will develop blood clots. If we're looking at smokers, 1,000 in every million smokers will develop blood clots. And if we're looking at COVID-19 itself, 1 in every 6 persons, 1 in 6, will develop clots if you get infected with COVID-19. So yes, we know with every intervention there's a risk of side effects. But what we do with medicine is we say, if we know there are certain risk factors for persons developing these side effects, then we can tailor the medication to you. So maybe instead of you getting this Johnson & Johnson, you will get Pfizer or Moderna. But getting vaccinated is imperative for the Black and brown community.
Well, Dr. Hilton, to that point, you talked about schools, and the LA School District just announced a vaccine mandate for students ages 12 and up. I wonder if you think that is something that we're going to be seeing in more school districts, and what that would mean then for the return to the classroom.
Yeah, I think we have to. Unfortunately, what we are seeing is that more and more of our children are being infected. We see in Mississippi how we're having outbreaks literally every other day. Unfortunately, in South Carolina, I just heard a report, that's where my family lives. And one of my cousins, he's a teacher in Lancaster County. 16-year-old child has died. There was another 9-year-old and 15-year-old child in another district. We're seeing our teachers getting infected, and we know we have a shortage of educators, and they literally are preparing our future to be able to remain this powerhouse globally. And so we can't afford to handicap our education system because of this pandemic and the inability to vaccinate both our staff and then getting down to our children.
You always look at your life and you don't see it as being a beacon of light. I still see myself as being that little girl that's just literally living out her dream of what she always wanted to do. It's funny to consider yourself someone as a role model. It would be really nice if I did influence some little girl to achieve her dreams.
The National Newspaper Publishers Association, representing the Black Press of America, proudly presents the National Leadership Award to Dr. Ebony J. Hilton, medical doctor and anesthesiologist, for outstanding and courageous leadership, clarion voice, intellectual genius, and passionate activism for the cause of public health in freedom, justice, and equity and empowerment for communities of color and for all people with the highest degree of excellence and social transformation across the United States and throughout the world. September the 16th, 2021, Washington, D.C.
Wow. For starters, to the National Newspapers Publishers Association leadership, to Black Press USA, to Dr. Chavis, I just want to say thank you for even considering me for this prestigious award, the National Leadership Award. And to be honest with you, it's kind of hard to even take in this moment that anything I've done is worthy such a prestigious award. We know that 2020 and 2021 has really shaken us all to try to push us to be better leaders. And sometimes we don't think our works are worthy of recognition. So I'm very humble and appreciative of you being given this spotlight. But I hope that I can continue this work to prove myself worthy of being in the ranks of the persons that are winning alongside of me today. So thank you, it's appreciated, and hold me accountable because work is surely not done.
Pfizer is proud to support the NNPA and patients living with rare diseases, such as transthyretin amyloid cardiomyopathy, or ATTR-CM, a life-threatening underdiagnosed disease associated with heart failure. In the U.S., the most common mutation, V122I, associated with the hereditary form of ATTR-CM, is found almost exclusively in African Americans. Approximately 3% to 4% of African Americans are thought to have the V122I mutation. We are dedicated to raising awareness for rare diseases like ATTR-CM and making an impact on the lives of patients and caregivers. Visit yourheartsmessage.com to learn more.
Next, we pause to salute and award one of the most amazing and accomplished Olympic medalists in the world today, Allyson M. Felix. At the end of the recent Tokyo Olympics, Allyson emerged with more Olympic medals than anyone in U.S. history, with 7 gold medals, 3 silver medals, and 1 bronze medal. We are all so proud of her excellence and her achievements.
And 4-time Olympian. She wants to make it 5, but there's an edge to this campaign. There's a depth to this campaign. There's another element to the story for Allyson Felix. This will be her first Olympic campaign as a mother. Her family are here, her husband Kenneth, there's Kenneth, but most importantly, her daughter. There is such a story behind little Cameron, the difficulties at childbirth for both mother and daughter, and that is part of the fabric of this story, and that's what's driving Allyson Felix.
The culture around pregnancy in track and field is silence. Get pregnant and you hide it. it can feel so risky when your livelihood depends on it. I'm Allison Felix, and I've won 9 Olympic track and field medals, and that makes me one of the most decorated women in track and field history. I can take less money, but the one point that I wasn't willing to budge around was maternity, and not because I'm planning to have another child, but just because it's the right thing to do, and if not for myself, for people coming after me.
3.
I was not aware that I was at a higher risk to have complications during my birth. But what I've since learned is that African American women are 4 times more likely to die in childbirth and twice as more likely to have complications. And that's exactly what happened to me.
The National Newspaper Publishers Association, representing the Black Press of America, proudly presents the 2021 National Leadership Award to Allison M. Felix, Olympic medalist and global athletic icon, for outstanding achievement, leadership, and for the exemplification of the highest degree of excellence and performance that today serves as an inspiration and aspiration for millions of people throughout the world. September the 16th, 2021, Washington, D.C.
Next, we honor and salute the courageous leadership of Congresswoman Cori A. Bush, Democrat, Missouri. She is an outspoken leader for civil rights, women's rights, and human rights. She recently spent nights and slept on the steps of the United States Capitol building to protest the cutting off of the moratorium for renters across the nation for millions of Americans trying to recover from the impact of the pandemic. We have witnessed her passion for Black Lives Matter in St. Louis and in the halls of the Congress.
This is the home where I grew up. As a child, my dad, he made sure that I knew that I was loved. He made sure that I knew that I was accepted just the way that I am. And he made sure that I understood that my Black life mattered. My dad's heart was to touch each person. My heart is to see change for our community on such a big scale. My heart is to help other people to not feel that pain that I felt, which in all of the things that I've gone through. I don't want anybody else to end up in any of those situations if I can help it. I just gotta see change for our people so that our lives are better, and I don't mind getting in the dirt to do it. During the Ferguson movement, during the Ferguson uprising, we didn't hit the streets thinking that, oh, this protest is happening, so let me put on my organizer hat. Let me put on my organizer hat and let me come out and look special and try to get a name for myself. Like, that's not what we were doing. We didn't have that thought. What we didn't know was that we were about to make history. We didn't go out, we didn't set out to make history. We didn't try to make history. We didn't try to make a name for ourselves. We wanted justice for Black and brown people. We wanted justice for this 18-year-old baby that was murdered. So we were fighting for someone we didn't know. And you know, people say, you know, if I was born back in such and such time, you know, I would have done this. Well, let me say this. When you're in a history-making moment, you don't know that you're in a history-making moment. So let me say, we didn't know we were making history. We didn't know we would touch the entire world. Regular, everyday folks like us. We didn't know. So let me say this. All of you sitting here under the sound of my voice, we are making history right now. This is a history-making moment.
You said yesterday you spoke to President Trump about some of the violent crime going on across the state and what happened to the couple in St. Louis.
We've been in contact with the President, the Vice President, the White House when it comes to violent crime in our state for weeks now.
We are dealing behind the scenes. We're saying you better get going.
Governor Parsons, you were not there. You're never there. I've never seen you there. You've never been at a protest to stand up for us, and it shows. You're not working and fighting and advocating for all people, especially people that look like me. And as far as our congressperson, it's the exact same thing. Never there, never present. We can't be afraid to engage the people that have to vote for us, the people that we're supposed to be serving. The regular folks like us, you don't want to talk to, but we're the ones that you need to talk to. But it's okay. There is somebody ready to come up and take the work from you. There is somebody that is primed and ready, somebody that has been on the ground with the community, somebody that has been doing the work, somebody that understands what it's like to have your face on the ground bleeding, somebody that understands what it's like to not have health care, what it's like to not have a decent wage, somebody that understands that but still willing to step up and stand up to take care and fight for the community. That person is me. I'm that champion. We can also get rid of this failed leadership in August.
The National Newspaper Publishers Association, representing the Black Press of America, proudly presents the 2021 National Leadership Award to the Honorable Cori A. Bush, United States Representative, Democrat, Missouri, for outstanding freedom-fighting leadership and for courageous, transformative vision and activism in the ongoing national and global struggle for freedom, justice, and equality. Washington, D.C., September the 16th, 2021.
On January 5th, 2021, history was made in the state of Georgia with the momentous election of Senator Raphael Warnock. Reverend Warnock is also the pastor of the historic Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta, Georgia. Voting rights are key to our democracy, and Senator Warnock's leadership is noted and appreciated accordingly. The Black press is therefore pleased to present this award.
Thank you so very much. I come before you tonight as a proud American and as a son of Georgia. My roots are planted deeply in Georgia soil. A child who grew up in the Caton Homes housing projects of Savannah, Georgia. Number 11 out of 12 children. A proud graduate of Morehouse College and the pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church, the spiritual home of Martin Luther King Jr. and Congressman John Lewis. A son of my late father, who was a pastor, a veteran, and a small businessman. And my mother, who as a teenager growing up in Waycross, Georgia, used to pick somebody else's cotton. But the other day, because this is America, the 82-year-old hands that used to pick somebody else's cotton went to the polls and picked her youngest son to be a United States Senator. So I come before you tonight as a man who knows that the improbable journey that led me to this place in this historic moment in America could only happen here. We were told that we couldn't win this election. But tonight, we prove that with hope, hard work, and the people by our side, anything is possible. May my story be an inspiration to some young person who is trying to grasp and grab hold of the American dream. And so, Georgia, I am honored by the faith that you have shown in me. And I promise you this tonight, I am going to the Senate to work for all of Georgia. No matter who you cast your vote for in this election, in this moment in American history, Washington has a choice to make. In fact, all of us have a choice to make. Will we continue to divide, distract, and dishonor one another? Or will we love our neighbors as we love ourselves? Will we play political games while real people suffer? Or will we win righteous fights together, standing shoulder to shoulder for the good of Georgia, for the good of our country? Will we seek to destroy one another as enemies or heed the call towards the common good, building together what Dr. King called the beloved community? Here's what I know. I know that we can beat this pandemic with science and good old-fashioned common sense. I know we can rebuild a fairer economy by respecting the dignity of work and the workers who do it. An economy that honors those whom we now call essential workers by paying them an essential wage and providing for them essential benefits. And so to everyone out there struggling today, whether you voted for me or not, know this: I hear you, I see you, And every day I'm in the United States Senate, I will fight for you. I will fight for your family. And to every Georgian who marched with us, organized with us, prayed for us, fought for us, believed in us, or shared their story and their pain with us, thank you for all of your love and support. In the words of Dr. King, who grew up just a few blocks from where I'm sitting right now, we are tied in a single garment of destiny. We are caught up in an inescapable network of mutuality. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. I remember my dad in this moment. He used to wake me up every morning at dawn. It was morning, but it was still dark. It's dark right now, but morning comes. And Scripture tells us that weeping may endure for the night, but joy comes in the morning. Let us rise up, greet the morning, and meet the challenges of this moment. Together we can do the necessary work and win the future for all of our children. Thank you. God bless you, Georgia, and God bless these United States of America.
The National Newspaper Publishers Association, representing the Black Press of America, proudly presents the 2021 National Leadership Award to the Honorable Raphael G. Warnock, United States Senator, Democrat, Georgia, for outstanding freedom-fighting leadership and for courageous, transformative vision and activism in the ongoing national and global struggle for freedom, justice, and equality. September the 16th, 2021, Washington, D.C.
Hello, and thank you to the Black Press of America and the National Newspaper Publishers Association for this award. I'm deeply honored. And I want to give a special thanks to my brother, Dr. Benjamin Chavis, to Chair Karen Richards, to National Correspondent Stacey Brown, and the countless others who do the important work of keeping our communities informed, engaged, and motivated as the trusted voice of Black America. I don't have to tell this group how important the Black press has been for a long time, and your significance as a particular perspective on the issues that impact all Americans, but particularly the African American community, is so vital and so important. As I accept this award, I'm reminded of your readers and the millions of Black Americans who get up each day and work to make our country and our world a better place amid these challenging times. Know that in the U.S. Senate, I'm working so that our future generations may live in a world where their parents' income will not determine their outcome, where our neighbors have access to affordable, reliable health care, and to ample opportunities in the educational arena. And above all else, we must preserve voting rights, because voting rights preserve all other rights. In a word, I am grateful for the privilege of working alongside you to build what Dr. King called the beloved community. Your work, frankly, makes that easier. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for the perspective that you provide day in and day out. Thank you for giving us a voice and a vision. Keep the faith and keep looking up.
Last but not least, we are pleased to award the distinguished United States Senator from New Jersey, Cory A. Booker. Senator Booker is a leading voice and advocate in the Senate for civil rights and human rights, as well as for climate and environmental rights. The Black press salutes his outstanding leadership.
I rise today with difficulty. And I admit I am, like so many other Americans, hurting right now and frustrated right now and feeling a torrent of emotions that I wish I could say was the first time I felt like this. And I want to begin my remarks in a different way because the names that we are hearing shouted on streets, George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, they have, like so many other names of people that we did not know as a nation. They were not household names. Their names now are mixed into names that we have heard throughout my entire lifetime. But the names and the way we say them mixed with horror and sadness and tragedy, it does not speak to their beauty, their humanity, their fullness, the texturedness of their lives. And I just want to say that Ahmaud Arbery was a man. He was 25 years old when he was murdered. He went out jogging before he was hunted by two white men who walked free for weeks after killing him. This man, this child of God, his loved ones talked to his humanity. They said he was a loving son, a brother, an uncle, a nephew, a cousin, and a friend. He was humble. He was kind. He was well-mannered. He always made sure that he never departed his loved ones without saying the words, without saying, "I love you." Breonna Taylor, before we knew her name, extraordinary American, extraordinary servant. She was a first responder. In a pandemic, like so many of our first responders, she showed a courage, humble heroism. She was 26 years old when she was shot and killed by police, asleep in her home. An emergency medical technician in Louisville. Her loved ones, too, shared the truth of her spirit. They said Breonna Taylor was full of life. She loved social gatherings with her friends and especially her family. She loved life and all it had to offer. She continued to find ways to better herself and all of the people around her. And George Floyd, he was a man that was raised in Texas. He was a Houston man. To his friends and loved ones, he was known as Floyd. In high school, I know this, he was an athlete, playing both basketball and football. He played the position I played. He was a tight end. He went on to play basketball at South Florida State College, pathway I know to college ball. His girlfriend called him an angel that was sent to us on earth. His family remembered him as being family-oriented, loving, and godly. Floyd was a loving father, he was a devoted brother, he was a partner, and he was friend, and he is dead at 46 years old. On May 25th, 2020, when he was restrained, pinned by his neck, and killed by law enforcement officers. The killings of George Floyd, of Breonna Taylor, of Ahmaud Arbery are singular in their pain, are singular in their particular details, in the anguish and the horror. But this is a terror that is familiar. It is a fear that is baked now, cemented into our culture. For so many Americans, especially Black Americans, this has not just been a tough week, a tough few weeks. It's not just been emotional time because of what we're seeing, the protests all around the country. This has been a tough life. This is the story of day after day after day that punctuates our consciousness only when someone captures on videotape what is a regular part of the fabric of our country. We have a long and wretched and disturbing history in this country of Black people being murdered by law enforcement.
Unity.
we need to lift up and stand up together and fight. It's not the bad words of the evil people that are going to stop us. It's the appalling silence and inaction of the good people. Fighting on different fronts of this common effort. We will either rise together or fall apart. We must choose forward. We must choose inclusion. We must choose growing together. Not to talk about problems, but to run towards them, to take them on. Finding common ground to get things done. Too many people are forgetting that the lines that divide us are nothing compared to those ties that bind us. We are far more united, far more indivisible, far more involved in a larger common struggle than we know. From Seneca Falls to those who stood at Stonewall Inn, giants before us said in a chorus of conviction, America, we will rise. Do we have the collective will, the American will? I believe we do. Together, we will channel our common pain back into our common purpose. Together, we will win! And together, America, we will rise! And that's what gets me excited. That's what gets me up, getting up every morning, is because I know we can achieve that. And I know all we need to do is band together to do it.
The National Newspaper Publishers Association proudly presents the 2021 National Leadership Award to the Honorable Cory A. Booker, United States Senator, Democrat, New Jersey, for outstanding freedom-fighting leadership and for courageous, transformative vision and activism in the ongoing national and global struggle for freedom, justice, and equality. September the 16th, 2021, Washington, D.C.
I want to thank the National Newspapers Publishers Association for this incredible award. It is an honor and it is humbling. And the reality is I want us to say thank you and honor you. The reality is we are a nation with so many stories, but too many people are marginalized. Their lives and their struggles and their challenges often don't get the light that it deserves. Well, the diversity of interest and the diversity of storytellers themselves is powerful. We are a nation that is beginning to discover itself and its promise, and in the struggle for a greater America, for a more just nation, we know that storytellers often find themselves around the world and here at home in dangerous situations when they tell a truth that challenges often the prevailing lies. I want to thank you all for the work you do. I know how dangerous it is, but our founders knew how fundamentally critical the press was, how those who shine light in all the corners of our country were essential to our nation fulfilling itself. We still have work to do, but I'm grateful that so many of you are doing the work. Thank you again.
On behalf of the National Newspaper Publishers Association, thank you for joining us for our virtual NNPA National Leadership Awards reception. Have a good night.
We've had a great program tonight. Thank you all for joining the National Newspaper Publishers Association. And once again, we thank our sponsors and our partners. General Motors, Pfizer, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Reynolds American, Wells Fargo, the American Petroleum Institute, Comcast Universal, AARP, and the Google News Initiative. Thank you for joining.